Well, it's that time again, that time when we step into the virtual bar, get us a stiff drink, because we're going to be talking about some politics today, which will be exciting. It's always exciting when we get to talk about politics. I do have good news. We will be having a disclaimer today, so you need to be prepared for that, because I know everyone is excited. It's one of the biggest things that we do.
Okay.
Do you get people, Greg, on Sunday morning coming to you and saying, hey, when is Ken doing the disclaimer again?
All the time. I mean, myself included.
Wow.
I mean, I sit there. It's hard to concentrate on the sermon when you're thinking about
you're thinking about the disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe we should put a disclaimer on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. The views and opinions expressed
by popular opinion. Here now.
The sermon you're about to hear. That has nothing to do with the people that go here.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of nice being back in here. It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We've been running some old episodes because we've had some things going on and haven't been able to get in here, but it's nice to be able to be back in here.
Amen.
Yeah. With you boneheads.
Thank you. I resemble that.
You
Go
can
ahead.
say that again.
Go ahead.
You can say that again. So, anyways.
I'm going to give you as many opportunities today to call me a bonehead that you want, okay? I mean, we're talking politics, so I'm a bonehead.
That's an easy target.
You're going to have to clarify who you're saying is the bonehead.
Need some clarification on that. I wonder if that's correct communication.
Here we go.
Unwholesome talk.
No, we're going to save that for Sunday because Greg's got a great sermon coming up. So we won't pre-talk about it, but it's been some good conversations about it.
It has in person if you want to hear that one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, good stuff. So anyways, before we get any farther, let's go ahead and get that disclaimer.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the respective speakers and do not necessarily reflect the opinions, the policies, or the doctrines of Athol Baptist Church and its members.
And there you go.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's his deep voice. I think it's his deep voice.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's soothing. Yeah, they listen to the disclaimer and they're like,
Does everybody feel
Before
like
this podcast starts, I think I'll take a nap. Go, Ken.
Well, that happens whenever I preach. Heads are nodding.
Oh, poor Ken. Poor kid. Well, there's 2 or 3 people in the congregation that they're pretty much guaranteed to fall asleep every time I preach. Yeah.
I think they come here for naps.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it's like, well, as you get older, it gets harder to stay awake for long periods of time when somebody's just yammering on and the room is comfortable and it's dim.
Temperature's right. Turn up the AC. That'll keep you awake.
Yeah.
When you hear, have you heard that before?
What's that?
Snoring during church?
Once.
Yeah.
Yeah, once. Yeah. I would tell you who it is, but they would be very embarrassed.
I know who it was.
I know you know who it was. Yeah. There is a long time associate of the church that is notorious for that. Yep. We love them though.
Oh yeah.
All right. So today here very soon we're going to be going to the ballot box to cast our vote for a myriad of different things, and among those of course is going to be president. And in our area, you're going to be voting for sheriff. And you can go and you can go onto the Secretary of State's website and you can pull up a sample ballot for yourself and see everything that's on the ballot for your area, which is pretty nice. You can go through and take a look at what all's going on there. I would encourage you to do that. I don't think people do that enough. Just like pull up the ballot, look and see what's on there, and see if you understand, what's going on. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I always think is interesting about ballots, when you look at them, is like oftentimes there are runoff elections for judges, and people will just go through and mark them.
Yeah,
because they have no clue. They have no understanding of what's been going on. They haven't had any kind of encounters with this person. They don't. It's not like judges go out and stump and like present their values or whatever.
No campaigning involved.
Yeah, there's no Senate hearing or whatever. Which is something to think about. Maybe state courts do need Senate hearings to place state judges, but in any case, if you don't know who it is, you should probably find out and at least get an understanding of what they have done and how they have ruled.
Do you think it's fair? Because I've done this at elections, go in and there's something there that you're like, what the heck? I didn't see that, didn't know that was there, and just not vote.
It would be better to not vote than put in a vote that you don't know what you're voting for.
And if it involves a person or a bill, it needs a certain amount of votes to pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you go into a polling place, just don't write down. It's not a SAT test where you're not going to Christmas tree it and pass, hopefully, because there's no pass or fail except for society. So
there is a pass.
If you don't know the answer, then don't mark it. Mm-hmm. It's pretty simple. But hopefully, if you're listening to this today, you'll be able to get some indication of the two main things that are going to be on there, other than the elections that we have. Because there's going to be two things on the state ballot. One of them is an amendment to the Constitution, and the other one is a proposition to amend a current
the Idaho Constitution.
Yeah, well, it's not to amend the Constitution; it's to amend our current laws that are in place for party primaries. So. We'll be getting we'll kind of talk about a little bit about both of those. The first one is not really a big deal to us in our area because it's pretty much a no-brainer. And what they're wanting to do is it's the amendment to the Idaho Constitution HJR 5. And as defined by the Secretary of State, it says a joint resolution proposing an amendment to Section 2, Article 6 of the Constitution of the State of Idaho relating to qualifications for electors. And, of course, an elector is anyone who can vote. And it says this, shall Section 2, Article 6 of the Constitution of the State of Idaho be amended to provide that individuals who are not citizens of the United States may not be qualified electors in any election held within the state of Idaho. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. Yeah. It's an amendment to the Constitution that says that if you are not a citizen of the United States of America, you are not allowed to vote in Idaho elections.
Yeah. No comment.
I know, right?
It's like,
hello. That's not already. That was my thought when I read this the first time, and I was reading through this, and I was like, okay, what, Legislative Council's statement of meaning and purpose. Okay, so it's like, all right, so we don't want every male or female citizen of the United States, 18 years, who has resided in the state and in the country where he or she offers a vote, and it goes into talking about how they're citizens and how they're allowed to vote. And then your yes vote will approve the proposed Constitution Amendment for additional language, providing that only United States citizens may vote in elections in the state of Idaho. And I'm thinking to myself, that wasn't already in there?
Yeah. It kind of highlights the importance of the Constitution in the fact that the right to vote is a right of citizenship.
Yeah.
It's not a right of residency. And I think that's where a lot of the argument is happening now in some of the southern states, is that just by being a resident of the state of California, Arizona, Nevada, wherever, you should be able to vote because you live there and you're part of that system. But
Yeah.
no, that's not really the way the constitutions are written.
Yeah, the citizenship, the sovereignty of your citizenship is what allows you the right to vote.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes with all of our amendments. I mean, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, these are all rights, Bill of Rights. These are all rights that we have: the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the freedom to bear arms, all these things. These are all kind of rights that we have, but those rights are enshrined in the sovereignty of our documentation, which you have to be a citizen to apply for that. We do believe that all men are created equal, and that God has given them certain inalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what you're guaranteed by God if you are a non-citizen of the United States of America, as far as America is concerned. Doesn't matter where you live at, what country you find yourself under. We believe that you are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. However, you do not have the right to bear arms. And the reason you don't have the right to bear arms is because you are not a citizen bound by the Constitution of the United States. So, you're right. And I think people, they don't understand the difference between residency and citizenship. That's a really great way of putting that, actually.
Yeah.
Never really thought of that, because they do. They try to try to give all these people driver's license to say they have a residency.
Yeah.
Or
And what is
treating-
the litmus test of citizenship after you go through a citizenship class? It's you stand and you make this oath to uphold the Constitution, its values, and its laws. And if you can do that, well, then you get the next step, which is these additional rights on top of it, because you have pledged these things.
Yeah.
The most
And
important, which is voting.
Yeah, and we expect you to be true and hold to those things, and law enforcement will ensure that.
Yeah.
Correct?
Which is really the best argument against illegal immigrants, or even legal immigrants who are not a citizen yet. It's really the best argument for them not being able to vote until they become citizens, because voting is for the citizens. It's not for just whoever decides to come in. I mean, if that were the case, just fly in whatever country that you want for the primary and give them a residency in some condo somewhere, and
Bus them to
and
the
then
big
when you're
city.
done with the elections, ship them back. I mean, it's like
Gosh, I'm
free
sure
vacation.
Glad that's not happening here
I know,
in the
right?
United States. Wow.
It would be terrifying if there were actually floods of illegal aliens entering into the country for the purpose of voting in the elections.
Yeah.
That would be
Problem is
terrifying.
they're not going to deport them when they're done with them.
No, then they'll leave them for the states to have to pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is this a tangent or not? I keep hearing people that are very upset with the illegal aliens that are saying, what we're doing with them, let's at least do with our veterans.
Oh, sure.
And I'm appalled at the fact that they are.
Yeah, there's billions of dollars being spent, and the tens of billions of dollars being spent on aid for, this was in Congress not too long ago. They were talking about this, and it was like in the $30 billion that they're spending on illegal immigrants and the care for illegal immigrants, housing, food, all that kind of stuff, phones, all of that.
Yeah.
And what they spend on disabled vets it's right around like $3 billion. Yeah. And so it's like there is the will to do something for people, but it just depends on how much it benefits you. That's kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And it benefits certain people for these people to be able to be in the country. And so they will continue to promote it and provide for them and let them be here. And I'll guarantee you, after the elections are over with, they'll drop them like a rock. They won't even care. They'll just leave them in whatever city or whatever township they were
in
remaining
whatever
in.
state they're in.
And then that city, the citizens in that city are just responsible for dealing with it.
For another 4 years.
Yep, for another 4 years. Yeah, unless, the alternative happens when, someone will come in and start deporting these people. It's like, if you're here illegally, you're gone. Period. Yep.
And that's going to be horrific for those people.
It will be
Who
unfortunate.
have put down roots in America and begun to integrate into American society and then just be kicked out.
It will be unfortunate.
Yeah.
However, you don't get to break the law getting here. and stay.
Right. There
Sorry.
this was about 10, 12, maybe 15 years ago. There was a meat packing plant I think it was in Michigan or Wisconsin. And they came through, and the state government deported all the illegal aliens. And the owner of this meat packing plant, which employed several hundred people, went to the governor and said, you're going to ruin my business, because the majority of his employees were illegal aliens.
Oh, wow.
And almost shut it down. So what did they do?
Sorry.
The governor said, that's what he should have said, but okay,
No,
you can have them.
no. Sorry.
That's not the way it should work.
No. You don't get to your benefit. Your business doesn't get to benefit on illegal activity.
Of you breaking the law,
Period.
knowing that you hired them.
Yeah, I don't even know why that's even a consideration. That's a no-brainer. It's like, oh, you're hiring people that are here illegally. Sorry, that's too bad. You're losing your workforce.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, like, okay, how many thousand young men are you housing in prisons then?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those could use some job training and a
that's a
transition
great
back
idea.
into society?
Yeah, and that are there for just really stupid, frivolous reasons.
There's a workforce there
Yeah, you just have to
that
have
we're
the will.
spending enormous amounts of money to sustain.
Yeah. There's a lot that we can do. Even disabled veterans. I mean, there's things that they can do if you would give them the opportunity, and they would be glad to do them. Because given the opportunity to work and better yourself versus struggling to try and get people to hand out to you, which one would you choose? Well, 95% of people will choose to make themselves better. Not everybody, but most people will. And so, there's ample opportunities for people. But I'm sorry. If you're benefiting from illegal activity, you could choose your sin, but you can't choose your consequences.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just checked out real quick. 30% of slaughterhouse workers were born outside the United States, and many are undocumented. This is a weird statistic. About 17% of workers in the U.S. workforce today are immigrants.
Yeah.
Are immigrants or illegal aliens?
It says immigrants.
Yeah.
Which is not a big deal. But
it is a big deal because that's an important distinction.
Yeah. But more than, what I'm saying is the 17%. Yeah. It's probably, I don't know. But here's the next one. 1/2 of frontline meatpacking workers are immigrants, which is just a weird statistic, illegal or not. It's like that seems to be a
gathering place.
Yeah. It's
But
like we go here.
If it was 50% immigrants, that would be different because these are people who have come over legally to go through the process of becoming an American citizen. There's an important distinction between the idea of immigrant and illegal alien, which is a distinction that I really appreciate J.D. Vance really highlighting. When someone asked him about that, they asked him about how they would deport immigrants if they took office. And he's like, well, first of all, there's a difference between an immigrant and an illegal alien, a vast difference. And if you're here illegally, you have to go.
Yeah.
You have to go. You can come back through the right process if you want, but you can't just walk in. That's not a thing. Germany is doing that, by the way.
A lot of countries.
Germany.
Hungary.
Woo.
Yeah.
Germany was letting them in there for a while, but they kind of took a turn. And now the chancellor, I guess. Anyway, so she was like, if you are here illegally or you enter our country illegally, you will be deported immediately.
Yeah. It's the way to do it.
That's
I've shared before on the show here that Adriana's mom and uncle, they came over here in 1956 during the Revolution. They could not come into the United States unless they had, number one, a sponsor family and or a job, and went through all the paperwork. And trust me, the paperwork was a mountain. It was not an easy process. And I think a lot of that today has to do with the mountain of paperwork and the time. It could take years to get naturalized citizenship here.
Yeah.
It just takes a long process.
Well, things that are worth doing are worth doing well.
Yep. And we could take some of the border guards off and put them behind desks.
I think what's interesting about that statistic you cited is, to me, it's not what I heard in that wasn't so much illegal alien versus natural citizen, that kind of an argument. What it says to me is kind of the tip of the hat to Mike Rowe, is that there are that many people who want to do that job, probably, I can't prove it, but because natural-born American citizens don't want to do that job because it's a messy, ugly,
stinky,
horrible job,
Well,
but somebody's willing to do it.
they're too busy going to college for 6 years for lesbian dance theory. So,
I would rather pick up the nice, clean, tidy plastic wrap packages in the market and not have to know what it takes to get that meat there into the butcher shop.
And many people today don't. They have no clue. Why do you hunt? Why don't you go to the store and get your meat where animals aren't harmed? Excuse me.
I wasn't tracking what you were saying until the very end, and then I was like, oh,
yeah.
Wow.
People believe that.
People probably think that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's a funny world we
just
live
seen
in.
that big silver machine in the back, and the pink stuff
Yeah,
just
it's just
comes
coming right
out.
out. Yeah, it's like they replicate it. It's like a meat photocopier.
It's like a milkshake machine, right? There's cartons of stuff. You just pour the ingredients in, and the product comes out the bottom.
Well, they're making fake meat. They're creating meat that is.
Oh yeah.
What would you call that process?
Processed.
Synthesizing.
Yeah. That's what it's called.
We'll go with that.
There was a thing out not too long ago where they were talking about using insect protein to create meat.
Yeah. Yeah, PragerU, man on the street did that. They made some bread with crickets in it.
Yum.
And they were having people taste it.
Delish.
And afterwards, he would go, those aren't really crickets. It was like rice or something in there. I thought it was great. People ate it. Some said nope.
Yeah, no.
I mean, insect protein is protein.
I mean,
just how do you process it and how do you get by the
I
fat?
feel like there's a piece of that is okay. I mean, John the Baptist, for heaven's sake, he lived on honey and locusts, right? So, there's a piece of that that's okay. Also, there's a piece of that that's just gross. It's like we're gonna blend up insects in a blender and then turn them into a meat paste and make patties out of it. It's like,
why make the patties?
wow,
Give me
it's
the
like,
paste.
what's next? Soylent Green? Yeah, that's
let's
coming.
not even go there.
It's like, bring out your dead. If you don't know what Soylent Green is, you should look it up. We won't talk about it here, but you should look
watch
it up.
the movie.
Yeah,
You'll enjoy
it. Good stuff. Are you hungry now? I know you're kind of doing your fasting thing.
Yeah,
that probably made you hungry. Right there.
Yeah, boy, I can't wait to go out and get me some dead people. Maybe maybe the Soylent Green and some bugs.
So what do you guys make of the whole Springfield, they're eating our cats and dogs things? Just out of curiosity. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard about that.
You haven't heard it? It was a big deal in the debate. Well, you were busy with family stuff, so you probably missed all of that. But in the debate, Trump had mentioned that the illegal aliens are coming in. They're eating your cats. They're eating the dogs. And it was such a funny soundbite.
It was,
and it turned into a instant meme, right? It's like everybody was saying it. In fact, there was this one video of a techno music concert in some European country or somewhere, and some guy had made a song about they're gonna eat your cats, they're gonna eat your dogs.
Honestly, my reaction was a lot like Kamala's.
Yeah.
I just like, what are you talking about?
It's wild because there's shrouding of different kind of there's some truths in it, there's some lies in it, there's it's like, who knows? Is it really true or is it really not true? At the time that he said that, there were some women that were going through the process of making it public that their pets had gotten eaten by these Haitian immigrants. And then there were all these people from Haiti that had immigrated over here that were legal citizens of the United States. And a lot of these videos they were putting out, they were like, yes, this is something that Haitians do. We eat cats, we eat dogs, and we use their bones for voodoo. These were Haitian people.
You got a problem with that?
So, I mean, it's like they were just matter of factly, okay, well, this could happen because this is what we do. But then again, there was like those ladies that came out, they retracted their statement and said that they didn't know for sure. They just made some assumptions about it. And so there's like kind of like this falling apart of it and everything. And a reporter had asked JD Vance about it. And he said that, I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not true. If I can say that Haitians are eating dogs and cats and you guys take the illegal immigration issue seriously for 5 seconds, I'm going to tell you that.
Get
Fair.
your attention. Get your attention.
Fair.
Yeah.
As long as you're approaching it from an honest standpoint, it's like, well, these guys are Haitians. They typically do these kind of things. Maybe you should be thinking about that. And the people of Springfield are just fed up. They're just done. But none of their council will do anything about it. They just continue to let it happen. But
I wonder how many of those people were like, yeah, bring them in, bring all of them in. We love them.
None.
And then you don't think so?
No.
Oh, I think there were some
Well,
that were.
it'd be kind of
open.
Similar to Americans going to India and having a nice steak dinner, being served by Indian people, cooked by Indian. It would be appalling.
Can
to
you
them.
Or going onto the street and butchering one of the cows, like on the street, and eating it.
Can you get
like,
a steak dinner
yum.
in India though?
Maybe somewhere. I don't know. Maybe
don't
the
know.
American Embassy. I don't know. They're serving up steak at the American Embassy in India. Yeah. No, the reason I say that nobody asked was because nobody asked. Like, nobody knew these people were coming. Like, these are 20,000 immigrants that just got shipped in to their city without a referendum, without anybody saying. They just appeared one day because the federal government decided we want to drop them off here. Well,
But the state had to have been involved to say, okay, somebody somewhere.
somebody knew.
Yeah,
somebody knew. The state or the city maybe or whatever, maybe somebody knew, and maybe somebody was benefiting from it. I know that there was like some company there somewhere that benefited from the fact that a lot of these Haitians were coming in and doing some work for them or whatever. But that's all. There's really not any hard evidence to support any of this stuff. It's all just conspiracy at this point. But the fact of the matter is that you got 20,000 illegal immigrants in Springfield, a town of like 60,000 people.
Man.
So, yeah, like a third of their population is illegal immigrants now at this point, which means that if they allow these people to vote, actual citizens in that town, they have no voice.
Yep.
It's like they're just given they've given the vote away, which is exactly what they wanted in the first place, obviously. And I don't really have any evidence to support that either. It's just kind of something that I think to be true, but I think that they're all being brought in for the purpose of voting. And it's just so nefarious. But anyways, I just wanted to kind of get like what you guys thought about that, because I thought it was funny.
Crazy.
I thought it was hilarious. People walked away from that debate. They were going, man, Trump just blew his opportunity to just really waylay into Kamala, and he spent too much time defending himself. And, he talked about eating cats and dogs. And, it's like, no, I mean, he's surrounded by really intelligent people. He is a really intelligent guy himself. I mean, you don't become a multi-billionaire by being an idiot, right? I think he said exactly what he wanted to say in that debate. I don't think any of that was a mistake. I've come to understand that he very intentionally just says what's on his mind, because when he does that, Joe Schmo sitting in his living room after he's worked in the factory all day long with his Busch Light, drinking it and waiting for his meatloaf to get done, is watching the debate, and he says to himself, heck, I would have said that. Yeah, so he becomes the common man.
I get it.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So he becomes the working class at that point. It's brilliant. Really. And yeah, maybe he looks like an idiot. Well, that's okay. You know what they did? They spent a week talking about cats and dogs when they could have been waylaying on any of his policies or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, I think that he is a master of subterfuge. He throws things out there for them to freak out over. And then while they're freaking out over that stuff, over here, where it really matters, he's like doing serious stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yep.
It would be nice to sit down on one of his meetings,
Yeah.
And just try to figure out where do we go? What do we grab a hold of? What's in the news that we can disrupt the media?
I think he's brilliant at that.
Yeah.
I think he does a good job of it too. They've spent the last 7-8 years Trump.
Okay.
Nonstop. Here's a reason why he's in the polls as high as he is, because the media has said his name a billion trillion times.
Yeah. All negative. It
doesn't matter.
Some people go, it can't all be true. I just looked up a headline from The Guardian, whom we don't put a whole lot of stock into. Ohio residents, Springfield mostly, flock to Springfield's Haitian restaurants. They are family.
Oh, my gosh.
Local support and volunteer at Haitian-owned businesses to stand against Trump and Vance's anti-immigrant lies.
Wow. There's no bias in that article.
It's like, what? Even if there's probably like 6 people that did that. And here it is, a headline.
No bias in that article at all.
Around the block.
Nothing to see here, folks. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. It's like the news media is just off the hook, man. If I hear them quote bloodbath one more time, I'm going to scream. Like it's just every time you hear them talking about Trump, they're like, well, he said there was going to be a bloodbath if he doesn't get elected. And it's like, no, he didn't say that at all. That's just a lie. Yeah. It is a bald-faced lie. And they know it.
Yeah. What isn't a lie is, and I can't remember her name, the gal that said that Trump should be shot. What was her name? She was a...
It was probably Joy
Behar.
Yeah, probably one of those.
Yeah.
Well, that's not... Why she's a different Joy. Joy Reid.
Why is she still in a place of power?
Why does she still have a job?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, why is she not being prosecuted? You know, I mean, you should not be saying things like that person should be shot on national television and then get away with that. That's not freedom of speech. That's
under FBI surveillance like every other kook who's said the same thing.
No, she's at the wrong party. Yeah, you got to be of a different party to get that kind of treatment, obviously. I'll tell you one thing that I have really enjoyed this election cycle is the odd unity that is being created by the Trump-Vance ticket. It's bonkers. Like, who would have ever thought in a million years that you would be able to go to an event, see Donald Trump, Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, and Russell Brand all at the same time?
That's
solidarity
combo.
right there. I mean, that's bringing people together that shouldn't be together.
Exactly. I mean, you want to talk about diversity. That's true diversity. Yeah. And it's got nothing to do with your skin color or your religious system or your political beliefs. It's just ideals. And they share ideals in common. And yeah, I think that's really impressive. I think the Democrats they failed. You know, they have a strong female candidate that they could have put forward that could have been the first American female president, and her name is Tulsi Gabbard, and people would have voted for her all over the place.
It would have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, she is such a strong. She's terrifying. Yeah, she had been in a debate with Donald Trump, she would have ate his lunch. But I think they're driven.
She wasn't radical enough for him.
Well, it's not even that. I think that she's just not on board with being dictated to by the different industrial complexes that exist. You know, she's not in line with the military industrial complex or the medical industrial complex or, you know, pick one. You know, she's just not on board with that. So there's not enough money in her. Plus, if she would have ran, they would have lost all of Joe Biden's election money. So,
true.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's something. Anyways, yeah, there's plenty to talk about there. That's for sure. So let's go to the second thing that's on the Idaho ballot. All right. What?
Can we tell
I'm busy doing something here, Greg.
I know. Just shut up and listen. What's that called again?
This one here?
No. The paper that.
Oh,
you
this
have
is
here.
this is the voter pamphlet. It was put out by the Secretary of State, and you should have gotten one of these in the mail if you are a resident of the state of Idaho. It should have come in the mail, and it looks like a little half sheet newspaper, printed on newsprint, and it was produced by Phil McGrain, who is the Secretary of State, and it has both of these. It has the amendment to the Constitution in it, and it also has the Proposition 1, which we'll be talking about now. But what I really appreciated about the way that he presented this was that with Proposition 1, it's such a big deal. He put in the pro arguments, he put in the con arguments, and then with those arguments, he put in rebuttals for each of those arguments. Now, I don't know who produced the rebuttals or who produced the arguments. I didn't look that far. I would imagine that he cited them in here somewhere, but I just didn't look for it. But he has really done a good job of presenting to you the proposition and the facts around the proposition in such a way that you can make your own decision.
On that. Yeah. I'm wondering if something like this is stacked up at the post office if you didn't get one.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I was going to contact the Secretary of State and see if we could get a bunch of them for the church.
Yeah.
And pass them out at church one day.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely something we could support.
Who's the addressee on that? Is it
resident, I think.
Resident of
Postal patron?
Kootenai County, Bonner
residential
County?
Customer.
Okay.
Is who it's addressed to.
We haven't gotten our mail for several days.
Yeah.
We haven't received ours yet, but we're in Bonner County, and you're also in Bonner County. Sounds like you haven't received yours yet.
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would imagine that you're going to get it, and there's a QR code on here for you to be able to get.
There you go.
You can go on there. You can scan the QR code. You can go register to vote. You can get a sample ballot. You can get this document. You can find your polling place.
The things.
They've really made it easy for you to be able to go and vote, which I think that everybody should do.
Yeah, maybe we could post that.
Oh, we can certainly do
our
that.
website.
Yeah, I would imagine that there's a way that we could get this in such a way that we could present it on our website. No, I really appreciated the way that he did. I got this in the mail, and at first I thought it was just some kind of like, oh, great, another thing, somebody trying to tell me. But then I started perusing it, and I was like, oh, this is different.
This is facts and figures.
This is different. This is somebody telling me what it is. And then with Proposition 1, not only does he give you the argument for and the argument against and the rebuttals for them and kind of what the bill is and what it'll mean if you vote yes, what it'll mean if you vote no. It goes through all of the different laws and sections of that law that deal with the elections that are being updated and changed. And there's like 4 pages in this thing dedicated to that. No, 5, 6 pages. It's a massive bill. There's like
100.
There's 42 sections. 42 sections to that bill, or to that law. And so, it's massive in its scope. So it's good that he put it on here because now people can go through and they can say, oh, well, this is what they mean when they're talking about the ranked choice voting. Like people are talking about that and they're saying that, but I'm not sure that they really understand what they're talking about. Whether they're for or against it, they're like, well, ranked choice voting, that's what this will do. This proposition, if approved, will require ranked choice voting.
Hey, Chris, what is ranked choice voting?
All right. Well, so Proposition 1 is called the Idaho Open Primaries Act. The Open Primaries Act. Just think about that statement for a second. An open primary. Well, what are primaries? Primaries are primarily separated by party. You'll have a Republican primary and a Democratic primary. The Secretary of State this year decided that they weren't going to fund primaries, so the parties were on their own. So there wasn't a primary this year for the Republican Party. They had a
caucus.
A caucus. Yeah, they had a caucus where you could go and attend the caucus and you could vote in the Republican primary, quote unquote. And so that's how whoever is a Republican would get on the ticket, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how it's done. That's how it's done everywhere. That's how the national elections are done. It's done by primaries. You have a Republican primary and a Democratic primary. And you can run as an independent, but there's no independent primary. So there's no group of people that vote for you to be their candidate. So that's why independents don't typically do very well, because you're drawing on the base of people that are either dissatisfied with their party or are registered independent already. And if you register independent, whether it's state or national, then you don't get to vote in the Republican or the Democratic primary. So if you register independent, that's one of the disadvantages of registering independent, is that if you register independent, you don't get to vote in the Republican or the Democratic primary, which means that you don't get to say who is running on the ballot, which is what the primaries
for Democrats
are for Democrats or Republicans. Which, by the way, is one of the things that everybody's kind of upset about with the Democrats right now, is because Kamala is running as the Democratic candidate. However, she did not win a primary to do that. Joe Biden won the primary, and when they decided they needed him to drop out, they should have ran another primary so that the Democrats could vote for the person that they wanted in office, which is why Robert Kennedy has been out of shape and joined Trump, because they bypassed that and just threw Kamala in there. And then you have people like Nancy Pelosi. She did an interview the other day with this lady, and she asked her about that. It's like, well, why didn't we have a primary to vote Kamala in? And Nancy Pelosi lied and said that Kamala did win the primary. That's what she said. A bald-faced lie. And I think that people need to start calling out lies for what they are. It's just a lie. Kamala did not run in the primary. When she did run in the primary, back when she ran against Joe Biden, she got 0 delegates. She got no votes. So she was really unpopular. So if they would have ran a Democratic ticket primary, she would not have won. It would have been Robert Kennedy, or it would have been Tulsi Gabbard, one of those. Well, guess what? Both of those people are now on Trump's team.
Yep.
And potentially
no choice.
And potentially going into cabinet posts. So, congratulations. I don't understand the how that. Well, it seems very stupid to me. It really does.
Either that, or they have figured out how to, dare I say, rig the elections, and they don't.
Oh, come on, Greg. Come on, Greg. They're not going to do that. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They didn't find 15,000.
Obviously, when all them votes came in for Biden at the last minute at 4:00 in the morning, obviously that was totally honest, and
they still found boxes
without reproach
in little tiny post office boxes in the middle of Nebraska.
Yeah, you know that video footage of the people stuffing multiple ballots into boxes. It's staged.
It's
AI. Yeah, it's AI. It's not real.
It's like the moon landing. That never happened either.
Yeah. So it's a big deal. How you vote is a big deal. So anyways, this measure, it's a measure 2, the Open Primaries Act, to replace voter selection of party nominees with a top 4 primary. And also to require a ranked choice voting system for general elections. This measure proposes 2 distinct changes to elections for most public offices. First, this measure would abolish Idaho's party primaries. Under current law, political parties nominate candidates through primary elections in which party members vote for a candidate to represent the party in the general election. The initiative creates a system where all candidates participate in a top 4 primary, and voters may vote on all candidates. The top 4 vote earners for each office would advance to the general election. Candidates could list any affiliation on the ballot, but would not represent political parties and need not be associated with the party they name. So you could be a Democrat and run as a Republican. Or you could be a Republican, run as a Democrat. Or you could be an independent and run as a Republican.
Which is happening already.
You don't need to associate with the party that you name.
So you just kind of pick your battle.
Well, rhinos. I mean, that word's been around for
Think about this.
20 years.
Think about this statement. And need not be associated with the party they name. Well,
That's
what does that
scary.
mean?
That means
that you can lie about the party that you associate with. The bill gives you the ability to lie legally to the people of Idaho.
But if it passes, you wouldn't be lying. You would just be withholding that particular bit of evidence. What they're saying.
Well, they
If
would
we're gonna make lying.
They would probably
legal.
say that anyways, but this says you need not be associated with the party that you name. So I could say that I'm a Republican, but not be associated with the Republican Party. I could say
Just
that
so
I'm a
you could get
Democrat
you could get on the ballot.
just so I could get people that were of that party to support me. I could say that I'm a Democrat and be a complete Republican.
And that
So-
would probably have bigger ramifications at the local races than the
Yes.
presidential races.
Oh,
the
for
national
sure.
races.
Oh, for sure.
Because a lot of times in these local races, there's only one or two people running, and
Well-
it's very apparent who they're representing.
Technically, it would only affect state and local races anyways, because your presidential nominations are done through party. So it would only affect
Yeah, that's
what
right.
is affecting
That's
the
what you said in
state.
the beginning.
Yeah.
It would affect
Yeah.
the state.
So it would affect your state senators, though,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Well,
your House
and
of Representative members.
and this particular bill is just for. Is it a bill? Or
No, it's a
proposition?
law.
Proposition.
It's an
Proposition.
addition to a law.
And it's
so
just for Idaho.
Yep, just for Idaho.
This is for Idaho.
Yep, this is Idaho state law. So
That
yeah,
could get really confusing.
well, it could get confusing.
So
And it could just lead to people just flat out lying. You know, I mean, if you are a person who is a rhino, which is a Republican in name only, then this just gives you license to be able to do that and not have any accountability
no
for lying to the
ramifications
people.
either. Yeah.
And this is a knee-jerk reaction to the Republican Party for the state of Idaho when they said that we're no longer allowing people to vote in the primary if they have turned Republican in the last so many months. Like, you have to be in the Republican Party for a certain period of months before you can vote in a primary. And then they were also vetting the Republican nominees. And people were just bent out of shape about that. It's like, well, that just seems like that's just terrible. You're not going to let these. No, it's what you're doing is you're guaranteeing to the electorates that support your party that we are aware that these people are who they say they are.
Yeah. It's
And
just
that-
integrity.
Yeah, it's an integrity issue. And man, they just like the Democrats just made a show out of the whole thing. And then this thing came along. And so just right off the bat, you know, I mean, it's like I read the first paragraph and I read that last statement and I was like, wow. So you're telling them by law, you can lie to the citizens of Idaho. By law.
Yeah.
You're allowed to. That's the opposite of integrity.
So we should vote no.
I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but yeah, you should vote no.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
The second part of this, the measure would require a ranked choice voting system for the general election. Under current law, voters may select one candidate for each office, and the candidate with the most votes wins. Under the ranked choice voting system, voters rank candidates on the ballot in order of preference, but need not rank every candidate. The votes are counted in successive rounds, and the candidate receiving the fewest votes in each round is eliminated. A vote for an eliminated candidate will transfer to the voter's next highest ranked active candidate.
Whoa.
That's just
Whoa.
an exaggeration of the lesser of two evils rule.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll just do the lesser of six
Well,
evils and then the
so
lesser of five
It just
evils.
keeps compiling.
Third place
Yeah.
gets fourth place vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then second
exactly.
place gets third and fourth.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Uh-uh.
And then, so basically, what that boils down to is the person that has the least, that has less votes, could possibly win.
Who?
Yeah.
Who?
And then
Second
they can
place
brag
could-
about
second place is-
about
Second
being
place could possibly
unanimously
win.
voted at the end.
Yep.
Everybody voted for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Quick question. Do we know who
Crazy.
the authors are?
You could
Of
go
this
on to
proposition?
the. You can go on to the.
It's not there.
It's not on this. Like I don't. Well, maybe he did put it on here. Let's
All right,
see.
well,
I think he does. I've read those before, and they pretty much disclose everything where everything came from.
Yeah, don't spend too much time
New
on
section.
it. But because it'll probably be a list of names of people that we don't really know. That
Well, I mean, it's worth knowing though because
Yeah.
it tells you what
what the
what
probably some-
people are actually promoting this kind of idea
mm-hmm.
and which people need to be voted out of office.
It sounds
Came out of a committee, probably.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, it
first
had to
one
go
was-
through a committee to get out.
The first one was a joint resolution. This one's not a joint resolution, correct? This is a proposition.
This is a proposition.
Okay, so that could have come from
Yep.
the people, not necessarily even
Right.
out of.
It,
No
it
people I
probably
know.
it probably came from a group of people promoting this idea, which
socialists.
I would say probably most of them are Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in order to get a chance in the state of Idaho, you have to muddle the election process in a way that fools the people of Idaho into voting for candidates that you would like. And if you can run office and you can say, well, I'm a Republican, but actually you don't affiliate with that party at all, you affiliate with the Democratic Party, then, if people don't research it, which they probably won't, then they'll vote for you just because you're a Republican.
More media.
They're
bias
counting on
to
that.
deal
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
This probably came from a petition.
I would imagine. I haven't done the research on the genesis of it.
Yeah.
I didn't sign nothing.
I was going to say, did either of you see a petition
Never.
at the grocery store or whatever about
Never.
this?
I
think I've
haven't
a
seen
couple
one. I would be surprised if you saw one up here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that there isn't one.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people that we could definitely ask. We might want to reach out to Heather Scott or
Mm-hmm.
one of our representatives and ask them, it's like, what's the genesis of this bill? I'm sure she'd be glad to share that information with
Oh
us.
yeah.
I can't imagine a scenario where Heather would be or Dale would be supporting this nonsense. But in any case, so the votes are counted in successive rounds. The candidate receiving the fewest votes in each round is eliminated, and the vote for an eliminated candidate will transfer to the voter's next highest ranked active candidate. The candidate with the most votes in the final round wins.
And guess how they'll do that? That's going to be a computer algorithm that does that in seconds.
Well, let's see. Under this initiative, this is the fiscal impact. Under this initiative, new software for tabulating ballots via instant runoff voting is needed. No federally certified software exists for this process. Though there is open source software for tabulation. We haven't had any problems with those, have we? We cannot estimate the cost of software tabulation. Shocker. 17 counties need to purchase an election management software at an estimated cost of $300,000. Material costs for a May primary election may have been $800,000. So they're saying that a May primary election would have cost us $800,000, but with this new system, it's only going to cost us $300,000. Right?
That's rhetoric.
Inflated by population is what they say. Adjusted value is $1.6 million. The software update may increase to $600,000 where the purchase is postponed. The bottom line is we have no idea what the cost is because they don't know what the cost of the software using the software is going to be. They cannot estimate the cost of software for tabulation. So you have no idea. It could be $5 million by the time it's all over and done with. You don't know.
More likely than 300,000.
So yeah, please support and vote yes for this proposition that we have no idea how much it's going to cost you.
And by the way, it
Seems
would
logical.
probably be impossible to challenge the results.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because it'll all be,
it'll be in the software.
Mm-hmm.
It has listed assumptions here. Assumption 1, voter turnout rates in Idaho elections are unaffected by the passage of the ballot initiative.
What?
Yeah. If you pass this, then voter turnout rates in Idaho will be unaffected.
I would bet money it would go down.
Probably. Counties continue to use tabulation patterns either in the precincts or in the central location as they already do. Well, that's false because they'll have to use software, so they can't use tabulation patterns they currently use. Existing election management software already in use by 27 counties is capable of producing ranked choice ballots and continues to function and be sufficient. Yeah. So we've already bought machines capable of doing this.
27 counties in Idaho have done that.
We weren't planning on doing this, I promise you. Just so happens that some of the machines can already do it. What a coincidence.
Irony.
What a coincidence. Anyways, it goes on. How it's going to be funded. It'll be funded by an augmentation of existing state and county expenditures for advertising and tabulation. Implementation of the act will require, 1, a public awareness effort to inform voters, candidates, and election workers about the changes to the election process, and 2, the purchase of ballot tabulation equipment capable of conducting instant runoff elections.
Instant runoff elections. They are not runoff elections. They're saying that they're just taking the existing votes from the last place guy and adding it
to the next up guy.
Next up guy.
Yep. Isn't that bonkers?
Yeah, I'm. I want to go crawl under a rock.
The
somewhere.
whole thing to me is like you read it, and if you just actually read it, there's no way you can walk away from it going,
"That's a good
what
idea."
What the heck did I just read? What is that? Did somebody actually put this on the ballot as a legitimate idea? Oh, you can lie to the people of Idaho about your political party. Plus, if you come in last place or if you come in third place, good news, you get all the last guy's votes.
Yeah.
It's like
it's like first place doesn't have a chance.
No, it's truly a liberal idea because there are no winners. Yeah, it's like everybody's a winner.
That's great.
Everybody's a winner. Yay, everybody gets a trophy.
Except the people.
Except the people.
It's not a vote, it's a game.
It is a game. It really is.
It's like the lottery.
Well, I think that's the way they think of it, though.
Yeah.
They really truly
gamify the elections.
Let's read the arguments for Proposition 1, just as a intellectual exercise, because I already know how I'm voting.
Yeah. Do we have the bumper stickers yet? Vote no.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to vote, or I'm not going to tell you how I'm voting, but there's high likelihood I'll be voting no. So let's see. Arguments for Proposition 1. Voting yes in Proposition 1 will bring back open primary elections and give all Idaho voters, including those not affiliated with a political party, the right to vote in every election. Currently, Idaho's closed primary system blocks more than 270,000 independent voters from participating. That's not right. A yes vote for Proposition 1 says that every voter should have the right to participate in every taxpayer-funded election. Okay, well, fair enough. If you're an independent, create a party, have a primary. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple, right? If you want a primary, create a party, have a primary. If not, if you decide to identify yourself as something other than the current two parties that is part of our way that we do government, if you decide to do that, then you also have to understand that you are excluding yourself from certain decisions. And the decisions you're excluded from are who gets to run in those primaries. That's just what people have always known.
Yeah.
And if you are an independent, you know that going into it.
It's apparent.
Yeah, it's not like you're surprised by it.
You can't play both sides.
No. And you still get to vote in the general election no matter what. You just don't get to pick who gets to be the candidate. And their argument here is that if it's taxpayer funded, then every person should be able to get to vote. Okay, well, fair enough. If you wanted to do that, then you could allow independents to vote in a primary for independent candidates. And you could just say, these are the independents that are out there, and then put them on a ballot and let them vote.
A lot of countries do that right now. You hear of elections where there are 60 people on the ballot. There's 40 parties. And several people are running for under two different party names.
Yeah, I mean, even if you like, I think that would actually be really beneficial to independent voters, and even people who, I mean, if you don't identify with a party, I'm sorry, I don't really know what to tell you. You know, I mean, I would say that if you don't identify with a party, you have an idealism that is preventing you from having a voice, and that's too bad. Even if you don't identify as a Democrat or a Republican and you feel like you're an independent, you should just put yourself in a position to where you can vote in those primaries, regardless. Who cares what your voter card says? You know, just pick which one kind of fits the most of what you like. I don't know that I could completely call myself a Republican in all sense of every way that every Republican thinks of a Republican, but they certainly have more of my values than the Democratic Party. So I'm going to register as a Republican. Could I register as an independent? Yeah. But the reason I don't register as an independent, I won't get to vote in a primary. Okay. Well, it's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. It seems like there's much easier ways to deal with that than creating a whole new system of elections that bypasses the primaries completely, which is what we've been doing forever.
Yeah. And it's worked, but it's not part of the plan that our socialist brethren have in mind.
Well, it worked
to destroy.
It worked until there was a concerted effort in our state to switch parties to affect the Republican primaries.
That's the rhino that we talked about.
It worked until that started happening, and then the Republican Party responded by saying, we're going to crack down on this. It worked until that, and then when that was removed from them having the ability to manipulate the elections through the primaries, then this is the next step. Yep, that's what it boils down to. And maybe that's a conspiracy. I don't know. I don't happen to think so, but obviously, you know, we got to bypass the primary somehow and get people on the ticket that we want. So that, anyways, that's the first argument. The second one, argument 4, is that Proposition 1 will restore the long-standing tradition of open primary elections in Idaho. Now, this is something that I did not know. Idahoans voted in open primaries for 40 years until party officials established closed primaries in 2011. A yes vote for Proposition 1 brings us back to a time when you weren't forced to join a political party to have a say in who is elected to important offices. I did not know that, but it is true.
It is.
It is true. Until 2011, Idaho observed an open primary, which means that whenever the Republican Party decided who was going to be in the Republican primary, and then when you went to the primary to vote, you could go into that and vote as a Republican, you could vote as a Democrat, you could vote as an independent, whatever. But you only got to vote once. So if you were a Democrat and you went into the Republican Party and you decided that you wanted to vote for a rhino to get him into office, well, that's one less primary vote that you're going to have in the Democratic. But if you only have one Democratic guy running, then you really only need 5 people to vote for him anyways. So, yeah, you can throw all your votes into picking a Republican candidate that you desire. And so that's the reason that they closed it, is because people were manipulating the system.
Does this particular proposition then bring back that same particular?
I don't.
You can only vote once.
No, well, I don't know about that, but in this system, it wouldn't matter. Like, party doesn't even matter, because you can say you're of a party that you don't even affiliate with, so you don't have any clue who is what party or what.
So we didn't have a Democratic and a Republican
but it also
primary?
carries all this extra baggage with it. It not only opens it, but it tells you how your open vote is going to be used.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's just in the general election. The general election would work differently than the primary, but in the primary, you know, it would be open voting for anyone who wanted to be in the primary. then the top 4 of the primary would go into the general election, and then in the general election, the bottom, the last vote, the bottom 4, the number 4 at the bottom, all of his votes would go to number 3, and then so on and so on and so on until a cascading electorate winner was determined.
So the primary then, was it still Democrat?
Nope.
And, okay, it was just open. So
It's it's a completely open primary, and open to the point where you don't even have to identify with the party that you say that you are.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it boils down to. I think you can't state that enough, that the law, the addition to the law, the proposition gives you the ability to lie about your party to the people of Idaho.
Essentially makes it party less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's really no point in having a party at all. You should just really say, we're not going to have any parties on our elections. We're just going to have people.
Yeah.
Well, there's not going to be any party at all.
Going to be the only distinction is their names and their viewpoints.
And their records. Just leaving their party on there, or leaving the ability to have a party on there, what that's going to do is that's going to pull votes for people that are just, they vote Republican no matter what, or vote Democratic no matter what. And it can go either ways. Like, you think if
and
you're
both parties want that.
Yeah.
They want the loyalists.
Well, even if you're a Democrat and you think, well, yeah, this is really going to help us to get people who are Republican to vote for Democrat people because we'll call them Republican. But also remember, when you manipulate something, there will come a time where that will be used against you. And let's say, for instance, that everything flips, right? That could be done to the Democratic Party as well, right? So it's not a win-win situation. The whole thing isn't. But I think that's an important piece to understand why it switched in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
It switched in 2011 because people were manipulating the system. They were coming in saying that they were Republicans so they could get on the Republican ticket. And then people that were Democrat would vote for the Republican primary, the candidate that was closest aligned to the Democratic principles that they supported. And then that would be the candidate that got through in the Republican primary. So basically, when you got to the general election, you were voting for 2 Democrats.
Yeah.
That's what it boiled down to. And so I think it's important that people understand that. I don't think people really truly understand that. They might read that and think, oh, well, we did that before. Why aren't we doing that now?
Yeah, sounds good.
Voting yes on Proposition 1 will restore the right of military veterans to participate in every election. Nearly half of Idaho's veterans are not affiliated with a political party, and these veterans are currently blocked from voting in Idaho's most important elections, the primary. A yes vote for Proposition 1 says that no one who fought for our country should ever be denied a voice in any election. That's just dishonest. It's a dishonest argument that veterans are somehow blocked from being in the primary.
Join a party.
No, they're not. They can join a party.
Yeah.
They fall under the same limitations as the normal
As
citizen.
anyone else.
It's just calling them out as a victim.
Yeah. Now you're just playing
with numbers.
Oppressor oppressed is all you're doing. This is victim status. And you're saying veterans because you know that pulls at the heartstrings of most conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want this to win, you've got to convince conservatives that it's a good idea. And I'm just telling you, conservatives, it's not a good idea. This is the most ridiculously socialist piece of garbage I've ever read. It's obnoxious. But I mean, not that I have an opinion about it.
But we disclaimed that.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, it's fine.
It doesn't count.
There's a disclaimer.
How do you really feel, Chris?
Don't get me started. Voting yes on Proposition 1 will make elected officials answer to voters. What? They don't even have to tell the truth about the party they're in.
That's an exaggeration.
So they will
if
answer
there ever was one.
with a lie.
They'll have to be accountable to the voters, not special interests or party insiders. Currently, special interest groups and party elites wield far too much influence. They control the outcome of elections by handpicking the candidates and spending millions on negative advertising. A yes vote will reduce the influence of special interests and give power back to the ordinary citizens. How? How?
It's just going to change the game a little
How?
bit. They'll keep playing it.
That's just a ridiculous statement, as if like changing the way we vote is going to change the fact that corporations are going to try and manipulate elections.
Yeah.
It's just such a ridiculous
Doesn't
argument.
make it airtight.
The first one was just it was dishonest. This one is just naive. I would be glad to sit in a debate with this person.
Yeah, it makes me
If you wrote this argument
wonder.
and you would like to come on 3P and to discuss the fine points of your arguments for Proposition 1, we would love to have you. I promise to be civil and kind and have a fair discussion with you.
But we will ask a lot of questions.
I want to know why you think these things.
Bring your receipts.
Proposition 1 will restore restore competition in Idaho elections. Currently, the majority of Idaho politicians do not face a competitive opponent in the general election. That's unacceptable. That's because they're Democrat. It's a Republican state. You're going to have a hard time getting a Democrat, especially in our area. Now, down in Boise, you're going to have a much better chance as a Democrat. Up here,
not so
you
much.
have a Dem by your name, you're not going to get elected. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, if you want to get elected by the people up here, you better bring the receipts, man. You better know what you're talking about and convince people. That's what it's for.
Instead of passing legislation so you can get into office.
Yeah. That's unacceptable and leads to unaccountable elected officials. A yes vote for Proposition 1 will bring back a competitive election. It will give more choice and more voice to every Idaho voter. Voting yes to Proposition 1 will make sure we have better choices in our general elections. Up to 4 candidates with differing viewpoints. No, that's not going to happen. Backgrounds and ideas. Voters can rank candidates if they choose, and the winner must receive support from a broad coalition of voters and not just a narrow faction, except for the people who voted for the person to be in last place and now get to vote for the person to be in third place to get all their votes.
Who gets to vote for the person to be in second place? Who
The
gets
people
to?
who got third. Yeah. Let's see. Voters can rank candidates if they choose. The winner must receive support, blah, blah, blah. Idahoans have an important choice in this election. A no vote will continue our current dysfunctional system, while a yes vote will empower every Idaho voter. Our system is not dysfunctional. Voting yes on Proposition 1 will restore the principles of our nation's founding fathers, who were suspicious of political parties and believed that we, the people, are the source of all political power. That's dishonest as well. Political parties have been a presence in our government for basically the entirety of our system of government. Even going back to when it was people arguing over whether, you know, you need banking or not banking, you know, or industry or not industry. You know, it's like there's always been a divide of political parties to represent the people of the United States of America. Now, could you make the argument that there needs to be a third? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that. I think there needs to be a third party, and I think it needs to be codified. But that would be the answer, not changing the way that we do elections so that it's easier to manipulate the people by lying to them. That's not right. Any questions, class, so far?
Get to the pros, man.
Well, all right. So hold on, we got a few more of these. These are really good.
Man.
These are 4. All right. So I will make sure Proposition 1 will make sure we have better choices in our general elections. Up to 4 candidates. Sorry, we read that. Voting yes on Proposition 1 will restore the principles of our founding fathers. We read that. And Proposition 1 has the support of a broad coalition of Idahoans, Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike.
Lies.
Please vote yes on Proposition 1.
Lies.
Yeah, because they don't have to associate with the party they identify with. So yeah, let's see. Let's let a third of us be Republican, a third of us be Democratic, and a Democrat, and a third of us be independent, and we'll be wide-reaching in our scope, regardless of our beliefs. I mean, that's what the proposition says. So you know, whatever
Lets you identify as whatever the circumstances demand.
Let's see. Arguments against Proposition 1.
The crowd goes wild.
And it does say on here. So the arguments for was provided by Idahoans for open primaries, which is a third
says
party
nothing.
special interest group, probably.
New group just formed.
And then the arguments against Proposition 1 were provided by the Idaho House Republican Caucus.
Okay.
So
Legit.
shout out to Melanie Vanderveer.
Mm-hmm.
She was probably involved in that in some way, shape, or form. Proposition 1 does not simply open the primaries and seeks to fundamentally change the system by which Idaho has determined election winners since it became a state in 1890. Now, I'm not sure how that plays into the whole idea of the 2011 change in the way that we vote. There was a rebuttal, and it was that the right to vote in every taxpayer-funded election, it will end closed primaries, which began in 2011, and force voters to join a political party just to participate in primaries. However, this argument states that it fundamentally changes the system. Well, it probably does, in that they're talking about ranked choice. Like, we've never had ranked choice before in the way that they're defining it in the general election, which I think is what they're talking about here. I think it doesn't, what they're saying is it doesn't simply open the primaries. It seeks to fundamentally change the system by which Idaho has determined election winners since it became a state. I think what they intended to say there was general election winners, because yeah, that's what ranked choice would do. It would change the way that we determine who gets elected. It wouldn't just be a majority of whatever. It would be ranked, cascading, complicated AI algorithms to determine, who won and who didn't. So I get it. Ranked choice voting is not intuitive for voters and would cost around $40 million to implement, according to Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain. Under Idaho's current and historic system, an election of public office is simple. Voters vote for their preferred candidate, and the votes are tallied, and the candidate with the most votes wins. Simple. So Phil McGrain seems to think that it's going to actually cost $40 million.
As opposed to $300,000.
Yeah.
Which is what they're proposing.
Bit of a difference.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe inconsequential difference,
Okay.
It's just a small percentage of, 40 million.
Yeah.
Ranked choice voting in Proposition 1 would implement a California-style jungle primary. Okay, well, it says California, so I'm decided. It's pretty much that simple. If it's California-like, we don't want it.
Did we discuss this yesterday at lunch? California, everybody is leaving California, coming up here. At some point in time, California is going to be a pretty nice place to live.
Yeah, once everybody
leaves
moves out of there,
we'll just move back.
Or it could be a third world country. One of those. If it's filled with illegal immigrants,
and we could go to war against it.
Illegal aliens. Ooh. Yeah, not illegal immigrants. Let's see. California-style jungle primary in which Democrats would help choose Republican candidates and vice versa. The top 4 candidates, which the most votes, would advance to the general election in a new ranked choice voting system. The candidate with the most votes can lose. Don't let this happen to Idaho. Vote no. One person, one vote. That makes sense. Yep. Ranked choice voting involves a more complicated ballot that confuses voters with contingency voting preferences. This would multiply the length of time it takes to vote in every race. Many thousands of voters will not complete the many extra steps involved in ranked choice voting. This change will make it harder for people with busy lives to get through the longer lines and complete a ballot. Voting no on Proposition 1 to protect one person, one vote. I find this argument to be weak at best. Maybe it is true, and maybe making it more complicated will make voters less likely to be in attendance. Maybe that is true. But the attendance to voting is already so low that this argument is not a very good argument against ranked choice voting. It's just not.
If a ballot is only valid if you vote for all 4, or can you just
no? You can not vote.
Okay,
but a not vote is considered a no vote.
Right, which is good because you could, if you go in right now, you select one person. And what they're saying is you go in and you got 4 to choose from. rank them. But if you just go in and do the one, which I think most
I
people
said
would
that. I
do.
don't know that that's true. I don't know that a non-vote is considered a no vote.
vote.
It might be that
Probably
it's
just-
just not calculated in the votes for the cascade up.
That's probably
Probably the way that it works.
because otherwise it could work both ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And that would be really difficult to try and strategize out
Yeah,
how to direct voters.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like you could
Vote
you
for
could-
Bob on number 2.
You could technically
but
go
don't
in,
vote on number 3, everybody.
Yeah, there's a
Because we're
possibility.
going to kill the
There's a
third one.
possibility that you could go in and you could vote for just the one that you want and not rank them, and then they would get the totality of your vote, maybe.
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't cascade, But I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe they're saying that if you think that 4 is the least likely, but you think that this one is the best, then the one that you don't like the most, we're going to let you do number 3 instead. And they're saying that that's giving you more voice in your election process.
Mm-hmm.
But really all it's doing is it's giving the person in second place the ability to win.
Yeah. Part of the campaign rhetoric then would be only vote for
Only vote for
one
me.
candidate.
Yeah, only vote for me. Ranked choice voting has been rejected by voters in other states. Alaska adopted this system in 2022, and an initiative is pending to repeal it. Make no mistakes, whether it's moms and dads trying to vote before they must pick up their kids, or workers trying to vote during their lunch breaks, thousands will leave the lines, give up, and I don't buy these arguments. I think both of those arguments are weak, and they are dismissive to the Idaho voter.
Although I will say we have never had to stand in line to vote in
I have.
anything. Have you?
I have, yeah.
In
at
Kootenai?
the,
Briefly.
Well, I vote at the Bayview post office, and I have had to stand in line before to vote, but it's never been like crazy long.
Yeah.
And to say that people will jump out of lines if they have made the effort to be there, they're not going to jump out of line if it's taking too long. That's not going to happen.
An employer not giving people time to vote.
No,
If you're self-employed, you make time to vote.
if that's the arguments that you're coming up with against it, those are really, really weak.
Yeah,
They're just looking for anything and everything they can.
well, they're emotional
defeat
arguments,
this.
which
They
way,
are.
Yeah.
way more than logical
Yeah,
arguments.
yeah. I mean, I think that the rebuttal to the pro arguments are much better than the arguments against, because the rebuttal kind of lays out the facts line by line for each con, and we kind of went over it in our own way. But there is a whole rebuttal section in this paper. If you read it, they go through and they rebut each line item. Additional concern about ranked choice votings: less election integrity, absolutely. Longer election season, yep, absolutely. Slower election results, yep, absolutely. More recounts, yep, that's going to happen. And higher costs, yeah, that'll happen as well. You can't add extra steps and expect that the price is going to go down. In summary, ranked choice voting would impede the voter's ability to simply choose the person that best represents their views in a single primary race. So vote no. That's what the Republican caucus wants you to do. So, yeah, I hope that covers it.
Yeah.
At least gives people, a little bit more information about, what it's all about, and what you're going to be looking at on the ballot for the state. So, yeah. Any final words, Ken?
Man, it's just amazing how complicated voting is becoming. What a game this is becoming.
Yeah.
Just in terms of viewpoints and logistics and money and all of it. I wish it was simpler. Anything that streamlines and simplifies it so that people can feel confident in their vote their consciences, and have trust in that. That's what this country needs. Man, can you imagine if this got rolled out to all 50 states? My goodness.
Oh, my gosh.
It would be such a nightmare. People
easy
would
to
be
manipulate.
dropping out of the process left and right.
Yeah.
But regardless of how complicated it is, here we've given you some information today to help you to understand what these measures mean on the ballot that's coming up here in just a little over a month. Like always, we're going to tell you, get out and vote. Do your best to understand it. Do get out and vote. Don't just throw up your hands and say it's not worth it. Don't give up on the system. because it's the best system going, and this is the one that we have, and we need to stick with it and protect it and defend it, and it will work for us if we do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to somebody at church yesterday, and they were saying that I'm really optimistic about our elections and about our government. And I was just like, no, I'm optimistic in our system and in the robustness of our documentation. And you can see how once it shifts too far to one side, it really, like, it begins to drift back, because people only go so far when they have the power that the American people have.
Proverbial pendulums.
Exactly. You know, it's like, pump the brakes a little bit, guys. You know, I think that's the best illustration that I've heard about the political system was when Bill Maher gave that illustration. He said that, you know, liberals have always been like the gas pedal. Conservatives have always been like the brakes. And he's like, I'm always been on board with let's just floor it and just go. But when you're flooring it and you're just going and you're headed towards a cliff, it's time to press the brakes. And he's like, that's why we need each other. Yeah. You know, because you can press the brakes so much that you just stop and you don't go anywhere. So you need a little bit of gas every once in a while. You need the brakes every once in a while. You know, it's like that system works.
And those independents are the clutch, right? And they put
put
the clutch in, everything slows down.
They're enough of a variable that, you know, it adds a little bit of variation to and makes people consider. You know, it's like, I need to think a little bit more about people that aren't necessarily just in my party.
Right.
I think it's a brilliant way of doing it, and it doesn't need to be dismissed.
Yeah, agreed.
That's
why we said that. Yeah.
And if you think about everything that's really important and meaningful in our culture in this country, there's a tension to it.
Yeah.
It's built in. It's never going to be tensionless. It's never going to be unanimous. There's always going to be a tension between political parties, between the branches of government, between, religious systems. There's always going to be a tension to it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes America great, is that there's room for everybody, and everybody can participate in that tension.
That's great.
But you have to have a little bit of a gut to be able to do it.
Well, you got to be an American.
Yeah, take some grit. And that's what makes Americans great.
Yep. Make Americans great again.
Gritty again.
That should be a slogan. Somebody should use that as a slogan.
Make America great again?
Yeah. Make America gritty again.
Gritty.
I like that. Yeah. Make Americans gritty again.
What color would your hat be?
That's a good question. White hat.
Blood red.
Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue would be a good answer. My derby cap, by the way, today is red, white, and blue.
Yeah, it is.
You're representing.
Yeah, we were talking about politics, so I thought I would
bring it on.
Prepared.
Bring the flag.
Bring it on.
I am indeed wearing my most patriotic shirt that I own.
And that says...
The Republican elephant. He's an elephant that is wearing a Uncle Sam outfit, holding an AR-15 with an eagle on his shoulder, and holding an American flag in the other hand.
Okay.
It is the single most patriotic shirt that you can own.
That.
Yeah. Everyone
with a cowboy hat on?
No, I think his head's too big.
No hats.
Yeah, he doesn't.
The eagle has no hat. The elephant has no hat.
Well, eagles don't wear hats, Greg.
But elephants do.
Well, no, they have big ears. They can't wear hats. They have big ears.
Can't hide them.
Okay.
So they can hear what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good.
America. Yeah.
All right.
What do you got, Greg?
Okay,
Final words.
I got this. Everything Ken said.
That was
Guys,
insightful.
we need to be informed.
Mm.
We need to be informed, plain and simple. If you're going to go to the polls, please do. Please register. I read the other day that like 30+% of Christians are not even registered to vote.
Sad.
Change that, people. We need to be part of this. It's our country, and it's been blessed by God. Let's use that to our advantage. But before you go to the polls, before you do all your research, read your Bible. Folks, you got to know what God wants for your life.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the Word, if you're not in the process of changing your life to what God wants for you, don't even go to the polls.
Yeah.
You need to know who he is and what he has ordained for this world. And that's the best way, I believe, that you can make an informed vote.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. Well, that about does it for us today. As always, thank you for joining us. If you have a suggestion or a question or an idea for an episode, send us an email to 3p@atholbaptistchurch.org, where Ken is anxiously awaiting your email. If you do get your idea used on the show, you could be the proud recipient of the now world-famous 3P coffee mug. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks to Athol Baptist Church and its members for their generous support of this ministry. And as always, remember the Great Commission to go into all the world, to reach the lost with the gospel, and build believers who can do the same. And with that, we are out.